There's a channel I follow on Instagram where this guy posts his workouts that he did for the week. And he says, I did this for this week. Archery, boxing, all types of mobile movements for muscles like general strength. And there was a point where I started looking at the channel and thinking, oh, this guy is really into himself. He just likes people to know, what he's doing and that he's in shape and he's making it happen. However, 2 steps away from this, the next step is, oh no, he's posting workouts for people to work out and, create a general strength program for him, for them, for the people that are watching, to create clientele. And then it also struck me, well, he's not just working out so he can gain a clientele. This is who he is. This is what he loves to do. He seems to get joy from working out, and then that joy or that action, people can tap in and they can work out as well and find that same joy. And although the title of this video may have struck you like, oh, I'm gonna make money, I wanna make money off of being me, the formula is a lot more basic than that, and we'll get into the 3 A's of how this works out. And for you to make money off of being yourself, I go to the very first thing that I started making money off of being myself, which was a musician, was rapping, traveling the country with the band. And I quickly learned that it was about way more than the music. It was about who I was, what was being said in the music, what we did after the show, what we did before the show. And towards the end of our run, a thing that I started doing was having a camera person film us on the road, film the band on the road, because people wanted to learn about who we were outside of the music. There are certain musicians and bands that I've never listened to the music before, but I've seen them on a reality TV show. And think about it in terms of that. When somebody is following somebody around with the camera, essentially they're making money off of the attention that's given to them. And I don't want to go into a place of vanity or you're just trying to garner attention and views and whatnot. That is something that we'll get into in another video when we talk about folks that are just doing it for the sake of the views and the likes. So you want to make money off of just being yourself. The first A is authenticity. And to do that, you have to figure out who you are. Who are you? What do you do? I had a conversation with a friend once. We were sitting on a patio and we were talking about how Americans say, what do you do? What do you do? And it, we say our job, what we do for money. And then switched it over to how when people say, what do you do if they're in Europe? And that question is a little deeper. It's, what do you do? What are you passionate about? What moves your gears? What gets you going in the morning? Who are you? That question freaks people out because a lot of when they don't have the answer, it sometimes becomes an identity crisis. It's like, oh my God, who am I? I don't know who I am. Oh my goodness. And so you have these situations where people are entirely like having a revelation that they don't know who they are. So to be authentic, you have to figure out, who are you? Who are you? What do you do? Not for a job. Don't tell me you fold clothes or flip burgers or you crunch numbers, but what do you do? What do you do? And only you can answer that question. Nobody else can answer that question for you. Nobody but you. And the next A after that is, once you figure out authentically who you are and how to stay in that authenticity, really, really figure out what that is. What do you like to do? My aunt, she loves to knit. She is a knitting machine. And she does it so well that she turns in her works to the Minnesota State Fair. And she gets like ribbons. And it may seem mundane or trivial to some people, but she loves to do it. And the people that compete in it love to do it. And there is this giant web and family and community of folks that find joy in knitting and doing arts and crafts. It's right there for you. That was one of the reasons why I went to the college I went to, because I looked around and I was like, this place is a mess, but my goodness, you can do anything you want to do. There's a community for everything here. Let's jump in. And apparently there was a community for students who wanted to check out for about 5 years and go on the road with the band and take the minimal amount of credits at the same time. That's a video for another time. However, once you figure out who you are, authentically who you are, then I want you to go and check in with the next A, which is autonomy. You can do anything you want. You can access that however you want. You are in an age, a digital age, where you can really access any tools and information that you want on how to not only stay in that authenticity, but to essentially rise and ascend in that industry. So authenticity, who are you authentically? And then basically tapping into autonomy of, well, what can I do here? How can I make this into a career? So for music, okay, we got to go on the road. We got to sell CDs. You know, what can I do? What's my autonomy, my agency in that? Well, you know, I can. This is back in the 2000s, mind you. Well, I can find a CD burner. I can burn the CDs off. Well, we need to record the music to put it on a CD, right? Yep. Okay, so let's do that. So what are the things I can do? What's my agency in this? What's my reach? What's my access? And the first thing that you have to figure out, what are the free things that you can do? What is a free thing that you can do that you can essentially implement your authenticity into it and then work from there? Work. For me, it's writing. So I'll sit down and write. I looked at a new platform called Substack. I take videos on my phone instead of using a $3,000 rig. Right now I'm using this Osmo that I'm borrowing from a friend. We're gonna see how that works out. And essentially you can start to make the work out of the things you already have. What is your autonomy in the tools you already have? What is your agency in that? What's your reach? How can you work with that? And again, another example just to help you out here is that for me, I look at it as, you know, what can I get done in the day? What can I write? What can I access? What can we give to other people? And that's, you know, service before asking. We'll get into that in another video, but it's how can I tap into my authenticity as a writer and an artist and then give that to the bigger picture? How can I do that? And so for me, writing short stories for Substack, writing a song for my legacy and archive as a musician, writing a short poem for a spoken word show that I have coming up within less than a month. That's a big one. And then laying out the big picture that you want for yourself and basically calling in the numbers. And the last A of it all is action, which is what we kind of already mentioned. And what we'll get into is that it's the action that you may feel resistant to. The action that you may feel resistant to. So accomplishment, success, whatever you want to call it, it's essentially in the actions that you're avoiding. Whatever it is that you're avoiding to tap into that new career or whatever that art may be, find out what the action is for you to tap into it. Because a lot of people, they find comfort in not taking the action. It then fulfills their self-fulfilling prophecy that, oh, well, it didn't work out. Well, that's because you didn't take the action. Oh, well, you know, I didn't feel comfortable doing that. Okay, cool. Well, then now you're back where you were in the first place. So there is a really, really sneaky and pernicious thing that happens when we don't take action and we say, oh, it's because, oh, this is why, oh, well, you know, and it's all these excuses that we build up to deny ourselves access and autonomy to our authenticity to then create a career in that field. And for me, I battle with it every day. I'm probably battled with it twice today, and it's not even noon yet. And so you're going to come across that, and you have to have a plan on how to deal with it. And for me, it's making a list the night before of things to do. It's making a list on my phone of big things and little things to do. What's the priority here for over the next month? What's the priority over the next week? And what's something I need to get done right now? Like right now, we have a film thing coming up for tomorrow. I have to map that out and make sure everybody's on the same page. But also, I have spoken word pieces I have to get ready for a spoken word show. So I have to tap into that as well. I have to pay attention and give attention to my craft that I love to do, so I can then continue to keep doing it. And when we go back to this guy that's on Instagram who is working out and showing people different workouts and muscle movements and whatnot, he's tapping into his joy. He's making a living off of being him. And the byproduct of it all is money. Money will come as long as you tap into who you are. I think Bashar talks about being a millionaire. He says, being a millionaire is simple. You just, all it takes is you doing what you need to do when you need to do it. and I know that sounds like reductive and like, well, oh, really? It's just that simple. But you tapping into your craft is doing what you need to do when you need to do it. And taking the action now as opposed to excusing not taking the action and waiting for it later, because taking the action is so important. I'll wrap this up with a story I heard about a writer. He said, my 80% for a lot of people, to them, comes off as 100%. And sometimes my 80%, I never fill the other 20. I just never fill that. I never fill that gauge. And so I end up sitting at 80%, never finishing the project. And with that being said, he decided to say, F it. I'm just gonna put this book out at 80%. I'm gonna put this piece out at 80%. I'm gonna be done with it. I gotta move on. And people looked at his work as, wow, this is amazing. Oh my goodness, look at this. This is, you put 100% into this. And in the background, he's like, not really. But the idea is that for him, the process might never be over. But because he takes the action, because he has the follow through, he gets his work done. Or he gets to the place that he needs to be. And as artists and creators, we all come into that, we come against that wall where we're essentially like, oh, wow, maybe I won't get this done. Well, if I'm not gonna get it done, I should just throw it away. And you get into this analysis paralysis and this, well, if it's not good enough, toss it out, all these things. However, take the action and give yourself grace, give yourself some love, give yourself some patience and time, and you'll find that you'll start creating a lot of things over the weeks, the months, and the years. And I know I said I was going to wrap this up earlier, but I'll give you one more short story. I was at a coffee shop in Uptown, and I ran into this poet that actually inspired me to become a spoken word artist. And I said to him, oh man, this is so cool. I didn't know you were going to be here. This, mind you, this is like 20 years ago. And he's like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, I got to just know, man, how do you make a living as a writer? And he was like, well, you got like some friends that are artists right now. I was like, oh yeah, man, all my friends are in bands. Like we're all rapping and whatnot. We're all writing. And he's like, okay, keep doing what you're doing. But in about 2 or 3 years, you'll have less of those friends that are still writing or making music or whatever it may be. I said, okay. And it's no judgment to them. They'll say, hey, this is a nice hobby, but I got to get a job. I got a wife, I got kids, or I got a husband, or I got a life partner, whatever it may be. And they'll say, all right, this is a hobby. I can't commit as much time to this. I said, okay. He said, but you're still doing it. I said, yep, I'll still be doing it. And then he said, all right, how about 8 years? Once 8 years passes, 5 or 8 years, you'll have even less friends, maybe 0, that are still doing art or trying to make a living from it. But you'll still be doing it, right? And I was like, oh yeah, man, this is how I breathe. And he's like, okay. At that point, you'll look around and say, oh, I'm doing the thing. I'm making a living as an artist. I'm making a living off of my craft. And so for you, when it becomes something like swimming or riding a bike, it's just something that you do, or swimming might be a better analogy. It's something that you have to do, otherwise you're gonna drown. Then you'll see that you're doing the work, you're making a living from your craft, and you're making a living off of authentically being you. And that is the way that I have found a way to essentially make a living off of art, or authentically being myself in arts and crafts and creativity and all that good stuff. And so again, we come back to authenticity, autonomy, and agency, if you will, and then action. So Give yourself some grace, give yourself some time. You're gonna make it. Good luck out there.